Yes, welcome into a special episode of The Camp. The transfer portal opened Friday morning, 12:01, I guess 11:01 our time, Jesse, and the wheels started turning and things started happening. And the biggest thing that potentially could happen for the Badgers has happened, and that is they have a new quarterback. We're going to dive into all of it. His name's Colton Joseph. Jesse had an opportunity to talk with him. You can, if you prefer to read stories instead of listen to us talk, he's got the full breakdown up on badgerconnect.com. Go check it out. Well worth your time, well worth your money as well up at Badger Connect. If you're listening to this, we can also watch it up on our YouTube page as well. But Jesse, this was a multi-week process for the Badgers to get here. We know that Colton Joseph was a name that almost from the jump Wisconsin was connected to. It felt like there was a little bit of a more national buzz to some of these other schools. Florida State was one of those that certainly was talked about. But in the end, Wisconsin gets the deal done and brings in a guy who was the Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year, a guy who had over 3,600 yards of total offense this past season and more than 30 touchdowns. He is certainly productive, and the Badgers are hoping that will carry over to his time at Wisconsin. But they got their guy.
As we've seen in recent years, you never know what's going to happen when the season arrives. But in this moment, this is a huge deal for Wisconsin because this was the top of the board guy. And for Wisconsin to pursue him, convince him to come here, we laid out what the reasons could be for a quarterback to come and what the drawbacks could be. But they were able to acquire him. And you're right, Zach, this is not something that just happens the morning of. The regular season ended in late November with that loss to Minnesota. There were 34 days between that and the transfer portal window opening. And so it gave the staff, without having to focus on the demands of game week preparations, ample opportunity to assess all their needs. And it was clear to everybody, even before that regular season finale, that the biggest position of need was going to be quarterback. And that, as we've talked about, you needed to start with a bang and get a quarterback in the transfer portal early so that you could then convince all the other skill position players to come to Wisconsin. And obviously there are plenty of other visits taking place right now. But to get Colton Joseph, a true dual threat guy who put up massive numbers at Old Dominion, speaks to Wisconsin able to sell Jeff Grimes' offense, not what he did last season at Wisconsin. They were able to explain some of the issues they faced with injuries, and Colton even mentioned what he did at previous stops. Zach Wilson at BYU is the ultimate selling point, probably for every quarterback, because he finished 8th in the Heisman. He was the 2nd overall pick in the NFL draft pick, but that's Colton's dream, just like a lot of top-level quarterbacks, is to play in the NFL. And he believes Grimes can take advantage of his skill set as that dual-threat quarterback. And let's be realistic about this, too, because I think it's disingenuous to have a conversation about a Power 4 program landing a quarterback and not talk about money. That mattered. Wisconsin, it says something that they identified their top guy and were able to get him. You do that by offering a generous compensation package, and it's more than what it was for its starting quarterback a year ago. And the expectation is that it would be a 2-year arrangement because he's got 2 years left. And if that is the case, that's not something Wisconsin has had in getting its starting transfer portal quarterback the last 3 seasons, because you got someone with 1 year of eligibility remaining. And who knows what will happen in 2027. Let's just focus on what 2026 is going to be. But every indication is that this is a really big move for Wisconsin with a player that has a tremendously high ceiling.
Can you tell us how it came about, though, and how this all came together from their point of view? And I'm sure, Wisconsin as well, like, was it Wisconsin all the way, or was there something else involved here, or there were other teams involved, and they were able to play them off each other? How did it all come about?
So I talked to his dad as well, and he said that initially, because Colton publicly announced that he was going to go in the portal on his social media account December 9th. Well, that's a long time to think about what your options are going to be. And he said that his dad said that initially they had about 20 schools that they were considering what could be options, because you're looking at who's potentially leaving, going in the portal, where's there going to be an opportunity to start. His dad said that the Big Ten and SEC were kind of the best case scenario. Those are the 2 power conferences. That's where you want to be if you believe you're a top tier quarterback. Well, eventually they narrowed it down to 5 schools. And then it was Wisconsin, Florida State, TCU. Those were the top 3. And his dad said, like, it was not an easy decision, but ultimately when this portal process happens, it happens so quickly. You have to feel confident and comfortable in your decision. And the first school that they went to, obviously, was Wisconsin. They flew to Madison on Friday, did the visit on Saturday after Colton was officially entered into the portal by Old Dominion. And so they had a really good feeling about Wisconsin and were able to see what that vision was and how Colton could fit in. But obviously, we've seen a lot of the stuff online about, oh, Florida State is considered a strong contender. And again, this is somebody who had opportunities to go to a bunch of other Power 4 schools. So it's not like this is a situation where Wisconsin was the only major school. This is a big deal, but Wisconsin obviously had enough to offer to Colton and to the family to convince them that this is the spot for them. And I think it's, I asked, I'm going to be, I said, to be honest, like, you look at what happened last year, you have to take that into consideration. What did you think about that? And both Colton and his dad acknowledged initially, when you don't know anything else about Wisconsin, that's a concern because they were 135th nationally in total offense and scoring offense, didn't have a good passing offense or rushing offense. But I think in discussions with the staff, they learned what happened with the injuries, and they felt like being a part of a program turnaround was important, and being a guy who could get the ball rolling. And obviously they seem to have a sense of who Wisconsin could potentially surround him with through this transfer portal, that it's going to be a different deal. And I think that one of the telling quotes that Colton told me was, I think everybody will do this, but he said in talking to them, he made the comparison to what Curt Cignetti and Fernando Mendoza did at Indiana. Now that is the true outlier and something that every program aspires to have happen. But basically, it's that idea of going from a program that didn't have a lot of success to one that is a college football playoff contender. Now, Indiana in year 1 under Cignetti had a lot of success before Mendoza got there. But you can understand what Colton is talking about. And we haven't seen that, certainly, in the Luke Fickell era to date. But hope springs eternal this time of year. And maybe, just maybe, Colton Joseph, if he can be healthy, can be that guy to elevate Wisconsin. I'm not saying to the college football playoff, but put a product on the field that generates far more excitement offensively than what we've seen here in recent years.
All right. So I know a lot of people that are probably watching this or listening to this are saying Sunbelt numbers, Sunbelt numbers. What happened when he played good competition? And he got to play good competition, if we're being fair about it, in several games. 2 college football playoff teams. He actually played against Curt Cignetti and Fernando Mendoza in the opener. Passing-wise, didn't go great. Didn't throw for over 100 yards, had 3 interceptions. If you go back and look at that game, some of those interceptions, I don't know that they were strictly on him. The other aspect of his game, though, he had like 175 yards rushing. He had 2 70-plus yard touchdown runs in that game, and it was 27-14. And again, that was the opener for both of them. Indiana's offense wasn't necessarily running at its highest level at that point. I'm pretty sure we probably picked that game because it was like the spread was just insane. Like the spread was ridiculous, if I remember correctly. But he had so that game didn't go the way he wanted to. But a few weeks later against Virginia Tech, in an upset of Virginia Tech, and I know Virginia Tech wasn't any good, a couple of touchdowns throwing, another touchdown running. And it was over 200 yards passing, and I think it was like 70 yards rushing as well. He showed up. James Madison beat the heck out of Old Dominion. I think they put 63 points on, or maybe that was Marshall. The 2 games they lost in conference play were Marshall and James Madison. He had a solid game against both of them. But I will say 7 of the 10 interceptions that he threw on the year came against those 3 teams, and those are the 3 games that they lost. But when you're stepping up a level of competition, which is what he's going to be doing, he's going to be playing the Indianas and the Virginia Techs and I guess the James Madisons, the world on a weekly basis. Is there a concern there for you? And what is his confidence level of stepping up into the next level?
Well, I think there's obviously a ton of confidence because you don't make this move unless you believe in yourself and your skill set. And it's tough to look at those games and try and extrapolate what it will look like at Wisconsin when you're surrounded by a totally different team and defensively. Maybe you won't give up 60 points in some of those games, though. Obviously, they played really well against Indiana. I think people were thinking Indiana may not be that good, but he did some really good things. Yes, he threw 3 interceptions against Indiana, but he had 10 carries for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. How many other quarterbacks has Indiana played where something like that has happened? And it's not like that wasn't on the scouting report. He ran for 500 plus yards when he took over as the starter at Old Dominion in 2024. And Virginia Tech had its own issues, but that's a major conference school. So
on the road,
I don't know that it's, yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be out there until he proves that he can do it at this level. But I think if you just look at the totality of what he did, and I understand it wasn't all Big Ten level competition, he ranked second in the country this season in passing yards per completion, 15.2. And I think people may look at him and say, they may think of him as a runner first just because of some of the ridiculous numbers he put up. But he threw for 2,624 yards, 21 touchdowns. He ran for 1,007 yards, and he ranked 8th nationally in total offense, tied for 7th in rushing plays of at least 10 yards. He had 37 rushing plays of at least 10 yards. And again, some of those came against good teams like Indiana, and he tied for 4th in rushing plays of at least 20 yards. He had 16 of those. So I think he's definitely got the skill set to be dynamic and to challenge teams. And I think if you're Jeff Grimes and this staff, you've got to be salivating about what could be, because you can hurt teams in a variety of ways. And he talked about how this is just how he's always played. It's what he's done his whole life. We will see what that looks like when you are consistently playing top level competition, but the confidence very clearly is there. And all these other teams believed he was capable of doing it at a high level, which is why they pursued him.
I think I don't know why I'm picking away, just trying to give people that are asking these questions an answer to them. And that's specifically both of his completion percentages the last 2 years, he's sub 60%.
Yeah.
And when I think it was Pro Football Focus did it they had him at an adjusted completion percentage, like 66, 67%. So that takes into account a whole bunch of other things that affect the completion percentage. He had some good wide receivers there too. And a lot of those guys are actually in the portal as well. But yeah, I mean, the offense that he led finished 16th in the country in total yards. They were 29th in scoring, 7th in rushing, 83rd in passing. But when you look at what Wisconsin wants to do, I do find it a little interesting that his skill set certainly matches more of that. And again, at a higher level and a whole hell of a lot more production than that of a Danny O'Neal and a Carter Smith, as opposed to a Billy Edwards, or even a Hunter Simmons for that matter. And we saw continuously as the season went on that they didn't trust, Carter Smith to throw the ball, and that's why Hunter Simmons was playing. I find it interesting that, and Carter should be back, and Danny O'Neal when he's healthy, and certainly Ryan Hopkins is more of a runner as well. I wonder if you're just that entire room, and we'll see. It feels like maybe they'll potentially add another quarterback as well. Will all of them be of the same skill set so that you're not having to move your offense here and there to adjust for it if you do have some injuries? Again, I am not comparing what Colton Joseph has done to the other guys on this roster already. He is much more proven as a quarterback and leading and what he's done than any of the other guys on this roster. I'm just saying, if you want to say traits, they have similar traits. I don't know if that popped out to you at all or not. Just kind of slapped me in the face a couple times.
No, it definitely is. It's a notable conversation here because the skill set is similar in terms of dual threat ability. I think the difference here, the passing ability and the ability to hit some of those downfield shots. Again, you don't average 15.2 yards per completion or 9 yards per pass over the course of a full season unless you have the ability to consistently hit some of those shots. Yeah, again, this is not a guy who was running 38 times a game and passing 12 times a game. Like, it wasn't some kind of Navy or Army offense, which I do find interesting, by the way, and this is in a bit of an aside, he was not recruited hardly at all out of high school. He's had a back injury his junior year of high school, and we know that the junior year is the most important year to get noticed and get offers. And if you don't have film or varsity starts, it's not going to happen for you. So Old Dominion was his best offer, but the other offers that were on the table that were at least notable were Army, Navy, and Air Force because of his ability. And then his senior year, he just absolutely crushed it. He threw for 41 touchdown passes and over 4,100 yards, but by then it's pretty late in the game. But I bring that up just because I think people have always seen the running ability, but I think he's developed as a passer here as well these last 2 years. And he's been able to elevate the team too, because Old Dominion went 5-7 in his first year as a starter. Now, he didn't start until later in September of year one. I think they started 0-3 before he came in, but then they went 9-3 in the regular season this year. He didn't play in the bowl game, but it was their first 9-win season since 2016. So I think he's a better passer, but kind of feel like he might be a better runner too, at least more effective in terms of being able to do it at a high level consistently. I have no idea how this is going to materialize at Wisconsin, largely because the roster remains in flux and you got to see who he's going to be surrounded with and how capable the offensive line is. But there's just a lot to like about this. And it's funny because you and I were talking going into this portal cycle about what kind of quarterback in terms of how he was regarded nationally would Wisconsin end up getting? Are they going to get a top 3 or a top 5 quarterback? Are they going to have to pay top 5 money for a top 10 quarterback? And you look at 24/7 and On3, and this is not the end all be all, but at least it's a metric to gauge how people perceive a player. He's rated as the number 17 transfer portal quarterback. Again, probably negligible between 12 and 20 or whatever. But that's kind of where it landed for Wisconsin. Ultimately, though, that's less important than the fit and what he can provide for the Badgers. And I think it's a lot.
It absolutely is. And again, this is very early in this whole transporter process. We don't know, as you said, exactly how this is all going to fill out. We know as we're sitting here and talking that potentially there are guys going to be committing, and we are going to talk about those guys. But we thought it was important to spend a significant amount of time just on Colton Joseph. We're not doing a full episode, but just significant time on him. And then we'll come back and talk more about the other guys that are coming on. But some of the names, some of the guys that they are going after are of a higher caliber, I would say, than the past couple of years. And, with Colton Joseph and, the money, all that, does it feel like they're following through here on some of the talk, I guess, that we heard before all of this? And again, we don't know how these other guys are going to play out. We don't know if you're going to close every single one that you want, but at least from early appearances with some of the visits that our guys are taking, it feels like things are moving in the right direction, at least here early. And again, I'm going to wait and see mode because we know what has happened the last 3 off seasons and the hype that just has not been able to, flow into the season. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll say this. Yes, you never know what it's going to look like when you get onto the field during the season. And there was a lot of hand-wringing, understandably so, about what was going on in the month of December. This is what it's going to be moving forward. You can't get new players generally, unless it's a JUCO guy like a Taylor Schaefer. You're going to lose a bunch of players. And so the thought, I think, among the fans was, well, so much for Chris McIntosh talking about investing in players. You want to retain players, but you're losing all these guys. Well, they still have been able to retain some pretty key players. Ultimately, though, we knew that whatever Wisconsin looked like next season was going to be predicated a lot on what happened during this portal window. And I think Wisconsin is in a very good spot financially to elevate its game in the portal cycle. And I think we will see that across pretty much every position relative to where things were a year ago. Now, that is often difficult, maybe impossible to quantify because you don't have the figures in front of you. But I think it's safe to say that they are backing up that talk with a plan that's been implemented over the course of time, and now they're going to put it out there. But we will see who they can sign, and ultimately, no matter how much you pay for a player, you better produce, because that's all that matters. I do know, obviously, that even with this increased financial investment, it's tough to compare to all these other schools because everyone is increasing their financial investment and often competing for the same players. But at the very least, yes, I think Wisconsin has put itself in position financially to be able to be competitive, go after some of these players that a lot of other schools want. Now let's see if they can close.
Do you have anything else you wanted to hit on with Colton Joseph at all?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I know that it is the off season, and so there is a lot of reason for excitement, but I really do look at his skill set and think that makes a lot of sense for Wisconsin. All that matters, though, is if he can stay healthy, because we know the last 3 years, the starting quarterback they brought in from the portal missed a combined 22 starts, which is absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, when you really put everything in perspective, all the struggles that Luke Fickell has had, and a lot of that is he is on him because he is the head coach and has to make a lot of other decisions. But you haven't had your starting quarterback in full in any season. In the last 2 seasons, barely had him at all. So if Colton Joseph can stay healthy, I think there's a lot of reason for excitement. But now they got to fill the rest of the pieces offensively.
Yeah, I was looking that up the other day. 13, I should say, preferred starter, been able to finish just 13 of the 37 games in Luke Fickell era.
It's wild.
Four in the last, in 2 in the last 4 years.
Oh, well, two in the last 2 years. You talking about?
That's what I meant. Yeah, 2 in the last 2 years.
Yeah. Basically, you had Tyler Van Dyke the first 2 games before he tore his ACL against Alabama, and you never had Billy Edwards Jr.
Actually, I think
34 snaps.
I think that number's wrong. I think it's 11 of 37 because Billy Edwards never did it, and Tyler Van Dyke did it twice. Tanner Mordecai did finish 9 games, so that's 11, right?
Yes,
that's 11. All right. Well, it's a good thing I didn't put this out yet, then, because I was just like thinking in my head, like, finished. Yeah, Billy Edwards did not finish a single game he started. So yeah, two in the last 24 games. Ugh, yikes, not great. We had this back and forth, what was going to happen when the portal opened and whether there would be a flurry of commitments. There were not. And so I would like to not apologize, but give you credit and say, I think there are a ton of guys that were committed before it opened, but took what you thought would happen, and that is come to the university and sign. And I think that's probably more so what's going to happen. So you were correct in that, and I was wrong. And I have zero problem admitting when I'm wrong. Zero.
I will hold this over your head until the next debate that we have. Speaking
of, do we have a costume yet for you to have to wear for losing the season-long picks contest?
No one, obviously nobody cares what I wear because all we wanted to see was a PJ Fleck costume from you. I had something in mind, but like, I kind of feel like I just want to show up to one of these shows unprompted without you even knowing that I'm doing it. And you'll say, what are you doing?
I feel like but I don't want you to enjoy it. That's the thing. Like, I don't want you and I feel like you're going to enjoy it. You enjoyed the hell out of Halloween. Like, that's not something I want. I want you to not enjoy it.
Okay. Well, then I need somebody else to pick. That's what it comes down to. Because if I'm picking, I'm going to have a lot of fun.
We'll figure it out. But yes, now that you were correct on that debate that we had, I do have to push for the punishment. I was not going to push for it, but I'm a little petty, and that's just what it is. So, all right. As I mentioned, a ton more guys in town, a ton more guys going to be committing. Some probably you already have by the time you're listening to this, but we are going to have a full show after the weekend and catch up on everybody. We just wanted to spend a little time here with Colton Joseph because we know how big the quarterback spot is and how big of a problem it has been for Wisconsin the last few years. And we won't know until the fall whether this works out or not for the Badgers, but it feels like a good step in the right direction, especially from where they were coming from in having the 134th ranked offense in the country. Excuse me, 135th scoring offense in the country. Not great. Jesse, thank you very much.
Thanks, Zach. We'll talk soon.
All right, there he is. Jesse Temple from Badger Connect. You've been listening to The Camp.